Today I'm going to do a battery removal on my 2018 Bobber. Pretty simple job. I know it looks kind of intimidating. It is pretty stuck spot, but don't let that worry you. Go ahead and get started. The first thing I like to do, I like to remove this cover. So when I'm taking this off with the Allen wrench, I don't scratch it. This just pops right off. By that little plug right there, pops into that little rubber grommet there. Next is taking this off, which is pretty easy. It comes with a 6mm Allen with a little screwdriver. I find this a little too small. I can't get enough leverage to really tighten it down. So I just went and bought a cheap set of Allen wrenches like this, using the 6mm. And then with that off, you can see the top of it doesn't hit the cover. This is onto a metal bracket right up underneath this little rubber piece here. The top part hooks onto the plastic battery cover itself, off and on. And then this just pops right off. Held on by two rubber grommets, and those go on right here and right here. Next, battery tie down. Got that off. There's one or two ways you can do this. You got, this is the battery ground. The cables go to this little bracket. I found it's easier for me to take the complete bracket off. And you'll see why, because when you're trying to put these two together in this little tight area, it gets a little frustrating. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it off right here. You're gonna use a 8mm socket with an extension. And note, if you can see it, let me get back by there. There's a little gap there where this bar goes into. You'll see it when you're putting it back together. I don't know if you can see it from the video, but once you have that loose, then you can kind of lift up a little bit. This one is kind of tough. Two ways to do it. Invest in a 10mm ratchet wrench, or you can use a Phillips screwdriver. I'm going to try with the wrench. I don't know if you can see this, but when you unscrew that, you have a little nut that goes to this. That can be a little fiddly when you go to put this back together again. And once you got that off, you already got this. Matter of just pulling this whole box assembly out. After you got it out here, it's easier to get to that for the ground than it is while it's tucked in that engine. And there you have the battery out. It has a little cover on it. And there's your ground cable. I've already changed it, so I'm not going to take that off. But it's a simple take that off, put it back on. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this. Show you how easy it is. Under here where that rubber just came off, you'll see I can't hardly do this. Hold this. But that goes right on this thing. It's like a little J hook right there. Then it's simply putting this cover on, feeding that through that little slot there. If you can see that, yeah. Hooking this rubber piece back on. Now's a good time to put this ground cable piece back together. Onto the bracket. And I don't tighten it down so I got some wiggle room when I'm putting it back in. That rubber boot can be a bitch. Here's the fiddly part. Putting this screw here. Fortunately, this battery, the bolt is long enough where I can just leave it laying there, just make sure it's lined up with the holes. I've had these where these were a little shorter, and the best thing I did was take like a matchbook cover, fold it up, put it underneath that to raise that up, that little nut up, then it was a piece of cake. But you can see there it's hitting. And once you got it started, you can pretty much hand tighten it till that bolt runs up. You got it snugged down pretty good. Get your old needle nose to pull that. This can be a hassle right here. Then you go ahead and reattach this, making sure that and then you can tighten this down. Pull the boot over it. Slide that back into position totally. Clamp that together. That just pops on, and then you're ready to put the bracket on.